this. There we go. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Western Regional Water Commission. Beautiful day out there. Amazingly cool weather we've been having, stunningly so. We're going to begin today with our Western Regional Water Commission meeting with roll call. I think we have some people on Zoom as well as in the chambers.
Clara Andriola, Christopher Gare,
Here.
Susan here, Paul Anderson,
Here.
Naomi Durr,
Here.
Mary Luz Garcia, Jenny Breckes,
Here.
Alexis Hill. She's on Zoom.
Can you make it so she can speak?
Yeah, I will. And Donald Abbott.
Here.
Can you hear us, Alexis? I heard her. I heard a little squeak come out of there.
Yeah, I'll go tell.
Alexis, we heard you squeak on the computer, but not in the amplification of the room. We do have a quorum right now. They're working, Alexis, to get it so we can hear you. The next item, we're going to have our Pledge of Allegiance, and I'm going to call on Michael D. Martini to lead us in the pledge. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. All right, and the next item we're going to cover is public comment, and I'll ask our clerk who's just returning,
I have none.
who says she has none, except I did see a public comment, although it's on item 6. Okay, so we'll wait for that. What's the status on our hearing, Alexis?
They're working on it right now.
Okay, all right. All right, moving on, we'll close out public comment and move on to approval of the agenda, and I'm looking for a motion to approve the agenda.
Move to approve. Second.
All right, from Mr. Anderson, motion, Mr. DeHare, second. Any comments? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, motion passes unanimously. And we'll move on to item 5, approval of the minutes from the May 18th, 2023 Western Regional Water Commission meeting. And I hope everyone's had a chance to look at those minutes, and I'm looking for a motion to approve the minutes.
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from Thursday, May 18th, 2023.
All right, thank you. Second?
Second.
All right. All right, so we have a motion from Ms. Siebert, second from Mr. Abbott, or any final comments on the minutes? All right, with that said, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. All right, on to item 6. Looking forward to this, and I'll invite Kim Rigdon up to the podium here.
Okay, good morning, Madam Chair and members of the commission. Kim Rigdon for the record. The Northern Nevada Water Planning Commission Public at Large position became vacant this past January. Staff began the recruitment process February 3rd, and that closed on April 7th. Staff received applications from 5 very highly qualified candidates, so we felt really impressed with the pool of candidates that the Northern Nevada Water Planning Commission had to choose from. On June 7th, the Northern Nevada Water Planning Commission voted unanimously to recommend to the WRWC that Mylin Nguyen be appointed as the Northern Nevada Water Planning Commission Public at Large member. Mylin is here today, and it is my sincere pleasure to make a staff recommendation for her appointment to the Northern Nevada Water Planning Commission Public at Large position. As you can see from her resume in the board packet, Mylin is very highly qualified, and we're fortunate to have her volunteer to serve on the commission. She has over 25 years of career experience dedicated to water resource planning and management, and living with her family in the Truckee Meadows, she's invested in water resource planning in our region. Madam Chair.
All right, thank you. Well, before we get to that, I just want to acknowledge our Commissioner, Mary Luz Garcia, has joined us for the record. And I want to ask, Alexis Hill, can you hear us yet, or could you say something? See if we can hear you. Okay, my suggestion, could you put the mic? That's all I got right now. Do you have a mic?
No, I don't have a mic over here.
She said she can hear us.
And she's on her way.
Oh, okay, excellent, okay. Let me ask a question first, Kim. This is the at-large position, so my understanding is as long as you live in Washoe County, is that the requirement?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. You mentioned that Mylin works for NDOT. Is there a thought that she's representing the public or NDOT in this, would in this role?
For this role, it would be, she would be representing public at large with her extensive environmental career background.
I see, okay. Well, let me open it to the board. Are there any comments or questions? Yes?
Yeah, I mean, I had questions about that also. In discussion in the past with people from state agencies here and elsewhere, I do think there's different philosophies in departments for people to be involved in local issues. I think, they bring expertise. But I did see as point 3 on her resume, she serves as the primary contact with local, state, federal regulatory and resources agencies. So, there could be pitfalls for her, and this is a really important job. And if she's having to say, oh, either on either side, over at NDOT or here, this is a contract that, will be interfacing with NDOT, I can't be involved, that's kind of that would be a problem. And, maybe listening from her or hearing, I don't know if I need to hear from her, but I want assurance from you that when you look forward to the items that you're going to be bringing to that body for consideration, how many might cause an inability for her to participate if there's interface with NDOT functions?
Well, that's an interesting question. We don't have anything in our legislative statute that precludes anybody based on their employment, but I can see where there might be a pressure one way or the other to make a decision based on your employment with an agency. I do know, so personally, I worked with Mylin at NDEP. She was also a supervisor of mine at NDEP, and I have never seen anything but upstanding integrity in the way that she makes decisions. And I don't see this being a conflict for her, primarily because I think I'm trying to think of the regional planning issues that would become a conflict with NDOT, and I don't see any that she would have a major decision-making role on any.
You really are operating under the ethics laws of the state. And, maybe it's going to be a lot of disclosures. Maybe she's going to be taking up Mr. Folletto's time a fair amount on every meeting on contract to formulate a disclosure. I just, I wanted to flag it also.
All right, thank you. Mr. Dare?
Yeah, and I think sometimes what could be a risk can also be a strength. I think her involvement in our government and on all different aspects of it and what she's done and reading through what she's done is pretty amazing, quite extensive. And with that said, the thing that catches me, and it's a good flag, is that it's nominated by all of the people that we trust to be in that position, including yourself, in the sense of what you just said. And so for me, I think we always need to keep an eye on those kind of things. I mean, if it seems like there's an ongoing issue, I think that's something that we could stop and say, wow, this really seems like an idea that didn't work. But I think trusting and walking forward and continue to verify is the right answer.
Any other members of the board like to weigh in here? I would like to invite Mylin up. Would you mind? I think just by way of introduction, before we appoint somebody, it'd be good to put a face with the name and the resume. And, yeah. Mylin, welcome. I know that you work at NDOT now, but obviously you've worked at NDEP before. Could you just talk to us a little bit about your background?
Oh, good morning, Commissioner.
And pull the mic close, because...
Again, my name is Mylin Nguyen, and it is an honor for me to be in front of this body this morning, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to be nominated. Yes, I have almost 17-year career with the state. About 13 and a half of those years were with NDEP, and I started out with developing a source water protection program for the state in 2006, and that's how I entered state government before that, I was working for a nonprofit research foundation in Denver. And like I mentioned in my resume, I grew up in most of my life in Nevada, northern Nevada. So I love this community, and this is where my family has been rooted. So I look for the opportunity to serve in whatever capacity that I can. The last 4 years of my career with NDEP, I did work in a regulatory position that is overseeing the Bureau of Safe Drinking Water, and I consider that regulatory. And then for the past 3.5 years, I've been in the Department of Transportation as the chief for the Environmental Division, which put me in a more of a regulated entity instead of a regulator. So I appreciate the background and the breadth of my experience working for the state in a different capacity. Before I volunteer for this position, I did consider whether I'm a good fit for the needs of the community. I gave that a lot of thought. I did speak with my current supervisor, the deputy director, where I see how I volunteer in this body would be a personal time and a personal commitment. I do not represent myself as an NDOT representative on this body. And his feedback to me was that he would support whatever that nourished my soul in terms of my professional growth and development.
All right.
And so he understood that I'm not volunteering on behalf of NDOT in this capacity.
But in your personal capacity.
This is my personal commitment. and
Let me just,
passion.
thank you so much for being here and taking the time to be present too. We know that's very important. I think it's really important for us to understand who we're appointing to various boards and commissions on all of our commissions. And I have to say, you seem extremely well prepared for this kind of position. But let me ask, does any of the members of the commission have any questions or comments with Ms. Lynn? Okay. Yeah, good. To the point raised earlier, I think since you've served in a lot of public positions, you probably understand the conflict of interest policy pretty well. And I wanted to introduce you to our attorney sitting right behind you, Lucas Folletto, because if you have a question or something's coming before the commission that you've previously opined on in your NDOT role, or even, although your DEP role was now 4 years ago, I think the statute sort of weighed, but it's good to disclose, even if you don't recuse. I mean, we all have done that back in our commissions or our councils, and it just lets people know what our background is and what we've been working on. So not seeing any more, I do have a public comment, so thank you very much for being here, Mylin. I'd like to call up Michael DiMartini, who's registered a public comment.
Thank you, Chairperson and Board of Trustees and staff. I'm Michael DiMartini, and I can and am willing to serve on the Northern Nevada Water Planning Commission. I have just 4 relevant points and provided this in writing for the record and to the staff. The candidate recommendation by the Northern Nevada Water Planning Commission is an administrator and the chief of the Nevada Department of Transportation Environmental Division. If the legislature wanted a representative of MDOT, they would have created a non-voting position on the NNWPC like they did for other state departments such as NDEP, etc. However, they and the statute do allow this board to appoint another member if necessary. Lastly, I ask the board to consider an independent person from the public at large for appointment and believe the Northern Nevada Water Planning Commission found that I, along with the 4 other candidates, were highly qualified for this appointment. I did receive a minority vote from the Northern Nevada Water Planning Commission. Well, all unanimous recommended the one individual to this board, or to the Northern Nevada Water Planning Commission. Thank you. I believe I am have been a member of this community for many years and have a lot of varied experience throughout the entire area with regards to the interest of the public. And believe that I can, while I may have to disclose conflicts from time to time, I believe I can represent the public in this matter. Thank you.
Before you leave, Mr. DeMartini, I have a question. Have you in the past had an opportunity to serve on the Northern Nevada Water Planning Commission?
Yes, I have.
Okay, and when was that?
That was the domestic well representative.
But do you know what period of time,
I
roughly?
represented the Regional Water Planning Commission for 12 years, from 1995 through 12 years, and then the Northern Nevada Water Planning Commission for the next 12 years. So
Okay.
total 24 years.
On this board? Or
12
related?
years on the Northern Nevada Water Planning Commission.
Yeah.
And 12 years on the Western Region, or the Regional Water Planning
Yeah,
Commission.
all right. Thank
Yes,
you so
thank
much
you.
for being here today. Okay, you've obviously had a stellar career in water, and we appreciate all the service to both bodies, Regional Water Planning Commission and the Western Regional Group. Thank you so much. Okay, are there any further comments from the board? And I'm looking. Excuse me? Oh, here it is, I'm sorry. I thought they were two of the same. Matthew DeMartini, please come up. Welcome.
Good morning. Thank you. I just have a quick one. I think the NWC already has a good gamut of the agencies represented on there. And I'd really like to see someone appointed to represent the public concerns for the public at large position. You know, that's really focused on kind of an independent public concern viewpoint. Thank you.
Thank you for being here, Mr. DeMartini. Really appreciate you taking the time today. So let me just say to the two public commenters, it sounds like Mylin has addressed the issue of independence of judgment and has already cleared all this with her boss and, lives in our region and is willing to step up and serve. And I'm very impressed with her qualifications. But that being said, I am looking for a motion. We have four. Oh, I'm sorry.
Question of staff. Ms. Rigdon, what is the statutory composition of the commission?
I have the statute right here. Can I ask legal counsel to come up and help me with the
Yeah,
questions?
yeah. I want to support someone from an agency working, in a volunteer capacity and bringing their expertise. But one of the commenters did make some compelling statements. And, this may be a position of singularity. And to that degree, while there may not be conflicts, there may not be the best fit, in my view. So I'm curious, because I know we have like Reno staff, Spark staff, Washoe staff.
Yes.
Who else is on it?
So we have, Reno, Sparks, Washoe County, Truckee Meadows General Improvement District,
The GID, okay.
South Truckee Meadows, sorry.
Yeah. Wait, that's STEMGID.
I'm sorry?
That's STEMGID. STEMGID no longer exists.
Right, and so that position is represented by the county now.
Okay, so Washoe County gets 2, and those are technical staff, okay?
Yes, and then the general manager of the Sun Valley General Improvement District.
Okay,
which is
more
Chris
technical
Melton.
staff, okay.
We have Truckee Meadows Water Authority.
Technical staff,
We have the general manager of the Truckee Meadows Water Reclamation Facility.
that's a local government staff person.
Yeah, he's the manager of the facility, so it
It's a
was
joint coordinate, I know, I'm on,
Drinkwater,
yeah.
and now it's
okay.
Casey Menser. We have one member of the Pyramid Lake Paiute Tribe
Okay,
Reservation for
okay.
representation, one member of the public at large, which is the one that we're looking at today, one member appointed by the board that represents domestic well owners, which was a position that Mr. DeMartini had.
And who holds that now?
That is Michael Widmer.
And who is he with?
He's not with anybody. He's retired and he's.
Has a well,
Yeah.
Okay.
He's a domestic well. One member appointed for Washoe County Water Conservation District.
Okay.
And then we have, let's see, I think that's it. That should be 12. Did I miss anybody?
So, to my analysis, this is really a technical committee with very limited, public presence. And I'm have worked most closely with planning commissions where it's all public, and sometimes you have an architect or a lawyer, and sometimes you do have, a person with an engineering background on other bodies. But here you seem to have people who have, the public members are a Paiute tribe member, which is really a jurisdictional person, I would say. And then this one. And I'm convinced that we do need, that it's not the best fit to have someone with this background, in my view. Now, I just want to follow, if you indulge me, say, there aren't any qualifications on this. This at-large member doesn't have to be an engineer or anything like
There are
that.
specific qualifications.
And
And
what
if
are
you
those?
refer to the board packet.
Yeah.
Qualifications are outlined there for the.
Yeah, is it an engineering degree?
It could be an engineering degree, it could be a scientist. There's a couple different professional qualifications.
Mm-hmm.
Let me pull up the staff report real quick to make sure.
Because then, in my mind, it could default to a consulting engineer who might have a client role. I'm really struggling with this because I think this at-large person does have quite a bit of shoulders, quite a bit on their shoulders when they join this board. To speak freely, unencumbered, bring in a very, community-based position. But what, is it an engineer that they must be?
They can be, so it's a professional engineer licensed pursuant to Chapter 625 of NRS.
Okay.
Experienced in comprehensive planning, natural resources, and
Yeah.
environmental protection. And the unique background really does infer that this person will have worked in this career path for a certain amount of time. And so it makes sense that that person would come from, either private consulting or some type
Okay.
of engineering.
I don't know if I agree. I think with experience in comprehensive planning, they could be someone who served on a planning commission.
Thank you, Ms. Breckus. I wanted to ask Mr. Fletta just one quick question, and then I'm looking for a motion. Mr. Fletta, are there any, since many of these people represent agencies, are there any term limits on this board?
No, there's no term limits, Chair. I did want to point out, Ms. Rigdon accurately conveyed to you the membership of the board and the qualifications, which are also in the statute. I just wanted to point out one other thing. Under Section 38 of the statute, members appointed to this public at-large position and others are precluded from holding an elective government office, but they're explicitly allowed to hold state or local government employment.
Okay, thank you for clarifying. That's excellent. So at this time, I'm looking for a motion. Mr. Dare?
I move to appoint Mylin Nguyen, did I say that right, Nguyen? As the NNWPC Public at-Large member.
All right. Is there,
Second that.
Mr. Anderson? Okay. Any further discussion? I see Ms. Hills just doing. All right. Well, hearing none, all in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
Opposed.
All right. We have recorded the vote. Congratulations, Mylin. Looking forward to your service for our community, really. All right. We're going to close out that item, and we are going to move on to item 7. Which is action, presentation, discussion, and possible approval of a scope of work and budget not to exceed $50,000 for fiscal year 2024 for professional services agreement with Sierra Nevada Journeys for the One Water Nevada STEM education program. Going to invite back Kim Rigdon, and before we get going, just want to acknowledge that now Ms. Hill's been on with us since the beginning, but now she's here present, so welcome. Back to you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And members of the commission, Kim Rigdon for the record. Sierra Nevada Journeys provides science, technology, engineering, and math education, STEM education to schools throughout the state. The agreement is for the development of STEM education specific to recycled water and will be developed in close collaboration with the One Water Nevada Partnership communication team to ensure a cohesive message in the region. Sierra Nevada Journeys prepared a similar curriculum for source water protection and watershed education, and they did a fantastic job. Staff is proposing the Western Regional Water Commission approve a professional services agreement with Sierra Nevada Journeys not to exceed $50,000 for fiscal year '24 and authorize the chair to execute the agreement. The Regional Water Management Fund has sufficient budget for this project. The project was prioritized by the Northern Nevada Water Planning Commission at our October 5th fiscal year '24 priority setting workshop. And on June 7th, the Northern Nevada Water Planning Commission recommended the Sierra Nevada Journey Scope of Work and Budget for WRWC approval. Members of the commission, I would like to introduce Mr. Sean Hill, CEO of Sierra Nevada Journeys. Mr. Hill has prepared a brief presentation to the board so that you can see
That'd
what
be
they
great.
do.
All right. Hi there, welcome, Mr. Hill. Nice to
Thank you.
see you.
Good morning. Yes, my name is Sean Hill. I serve as the CEO of Sierra Nevada Journeys. I've been with the organization for 14 years, and I'm a big fan and believer of what we do. Thanks for your time today. I'll give you a brief presentation about the project and a little bit of background about Sierra Nevada Journeys. So the reason why we are around, there's two statistics that I like to share because they are stark. The first is 70% of teachers, we hear this anecdotally from local teachers, are spending less than 3 hours a week on science, let alone watershed education, and this is primarily elementary age or elementary teachers. In many cases, it's much less than 3 hours. Due to the Common Core standards, which, due to No Child Left Behind, which was a big movement a couple decades ago now, there's been a hyper laser focus on math and English language arts in schools. And that has come at the expense of the arts and the sciences and physical education. And so unless you're being tested on those subjects, which happens in 5th grade for science and it happens in 8th grade for science, the teachers are not incentivized to spend a lot of time teaching those subjects. The second statistic is just how much longer children are spending in front of screens now. And then when you compare that to the time that they're actually spending with unstructured time in the outdoors, it's a staggering statistic. And Kaiser Family Foundation suggests that it's as much as 15 times longer on screens than kids are playing outside or being outside. So I truly wish that our organization was not needed, but I think we absolutely are. So we roll into schools and we try to provide enrichment to reach these. So our mission is to deliver innovative outdoor science-based education for youth to develop critical thinking skills and to inspire natural resource stewardship. We've been doing this since 2006, and I'll talk more about our impacts here in a moment. Our core programs, we have a classroom outreach program we call Classrooms Unleashed, where we go into the classroom at local schools, Sparks in Reno, Washoe County, some of the other surrounding counties, and we deliver hands-on science presentations to students. It's all about natural systems, and then we take the kiddos on a one-day field study to a local natural area. These are places that, in most cases, they can return to with their families. And so that's part of our educational program, is letting them know that these spaces are available to them. We also run a camp program. Many of you may have heard about you may know us through our summer camp program. We have a beautiful residential camp facility in Portola where we serve a lot of Northern Nevada students. And in the summer, it's summer camp, but during the school year, it's an overnight science camp program. We have several community partner programs. We have an after-school program that's been growing and growing, especially since the pandemic. And then we have a family STEM night program, which I'll discuss a little bit more further. In terms of impacts, last year we served 26,000 students. Now we do operate a similar program in Sacramento, so this is organization-wide, but about a little over half of those students are Northern Nevada students. Those are students that are served either in their classroom or up at our residential facility. 50% of those students were from low-income communities, 61% of those students were students of color, 13% were living with a disability. We have a strong fundraising network that allows us to serve underserved youth. That is a focus area for us, is to build accessibility for students that are underrepresented in the STEM fields. It doesn't look like a big statistic, but we do have external evaluation that shows that 6% more students score at the proficient level on the 5th grade science exam at the schools where our programs are delivered. And that is a pretty big number in the public school system. That evaluation was done in partnership with UNR. We have worked on similar projects to this, so in addition to the sort of the in-house programs that we've developed, we are also approached many times by partners in the community that look to us to help develop curriculum that helps advance, whatever the program partner wants to push out. And so we've built free teacher resources. We developed a flood fighter curriculum with the Division of Water Resources, a mapping project with the Carson Water Subconservancy District. A lot of our work happens to involve or relate to watershed education. There's a lot of interested stakeholders in our community that help support that. And again, it's very important to teach children about their local watersheds. So I just wanted to point out some of those additional partnerships that we've run. Ms. Rignan also mentioned the Source Water Protection Program that we were a part of as well. A list of partners there. We've been doing this for a while and really cherish a lot of strong partnerships in this community. So I don't want to read these out, but I'll put that up there for a moment so you can see the other partners that we work with. The Family STEM Night program is where we think that the initiative in front of the commission today is going to be ideal. These are 2-hour events. They take place in the evening. They are a way for Sierra Nevada Journeys to help schools connect with families. The whole family is invited. It ends up being a very multi-generational activity. They typically happen at elementary schools, sometimes middle schools, but grandma and grandpa oftentimes show up, uncles, aunts, sisters, brothers. So during those activities, the Sierra Nevada Journeys team facilitates fun hands-on STEM stations that families can go to independently, and then we sort of staff with volunteers and staff members. During those stations are opportunities for us to develop and deliver curriculum related to, for Sierra Nevada Journeys, as long as it's STEM and or natural sciences related, it's going to fit with our mission. The project in front of the commission today, this would be an ideal place to talk about the One Water or Recycled Water program. There is a family design challenge at these events, and we serve up to 50 schools annually in northern Nevada, northwestern Nevada. Each event is attended on average by 150 participants. So the One Water STEM education program, what we're proposing, apologies for the little mess up there, but we would build 2 or 3 or 4 STEM activity stations that are related to this topic. We want to make sure that we're working in close partnership with our partners to make sure that the messaging is scientifically sound and it's the right messaging. But when we put it into our process, we make it fun and hands-on and engaging. So I mentioned the partners that we'd be working with up there. Year 1 includes program development and pilot at 20 schools. That's approximately 3,000 participants. This would be, once the program is piloted and refined, this would be something that we could continue to run for years after year 1. The budget we have in front of you is $20,000 for curriculum development and $30,000 for program delivery for those 20 schools. So with that, that's my presentation. Happy to take any questions.
All right, yes, thank you so much. That was very informative. I do have a couple questions, but I'll defer mine until I hear from the rest of the commission. Mr. Dare.
Yes, thank you so much for being here, Sean. Sean, right? Sean Hill?
Yes.
Thank you. A couple questions I have is just more, how can we be more involved? I think it's fantastic what you're doing. Like, when are the STEM nights? Can we be invited? Can we stop by and just cheer you on? You don't need to introduce us. We're not there to try to make a whatever, just to stand with you. But it helps us when you come to us, we can be ourselves going, hey, that was fantastic. Look what they did. And we may even have ideas to help you grow because of what we do and what we know. And then the other, if you ever have kids that even get awards in with us, we'd love to honor them, bring them here. This kind of connects us to what you're doing instead of, every once in a while just getting an update. So I would prefer a connection and collaboration on that end than just finances.
Great. So with visitation to STEM nights, that would be wonderful. In fact, you could come and be an observer, or we could kind of fold you in as a volunteer, and I think that would be a rewarding experience, and you could see it in action. So absolutely, we just like to we do background check volunteers, because we're bringing them into schools. So after we took care of a few logistics, we'd be happy to invite any members of the commission that would want to join.
We've all been background checked a lot, so we
Yeah.
don't mind it again. It's okay.
Perfect.
We
But
really have.
I'd appreciate that, and, you know, if time allows.
Yeah.
But thank you for that open door. But I think that'll serve you better and us better as we walk forward. Thank you.
Yeah, happy to work with staff to help set something up.
Yeah, I was thinking something much the same, so thanks, Mr. Dare. I was thinking, how can we get more personally involved rather than just being a pass-through on money? Let me see, does the rest of the board, any comments or questions? Yeah? Mr. Anderson?
Well, it's funny, we were all thinking the same thing, so pretty much ditto. I just, however you could involve us in the process, it also helps us understand how the monies are being spent and making sure that we're making the right decision. So I think that's great.
Yeah, absolutely.
Chair Dewar,
Yeah,
thank you.
Ms. Garcia.
Yes. So I wanted to disclose that I was on the board of Sierra Nevada Journeys and came off the board last year. And an item came before the Board of County Commission where I actually the board approved and I allocated district funds to support the amazing students of Sun Valley. All of the elementary schools are in the fall going to be participating in a similar program with Sierra Nevada Journeys taking place at our regional park. And I just can't say enough good things. I know I had close ties to the organization in the past. I'm still a fan, always have been, even pre-serving on the board. I've seen firsthand as a client of Sierra Nevada Journeys going way back, starting 10 years ago, and seeing firsthand how transformative these STEM outdoor experiences are for students. And I have had the privilege of seeing how getting families together and getting children together, talking about things that aren't always invested in or advocated for in the school day, and finding ways after school during the summer and intersession to really provide those educational opportunities. This leads me into my next question because I'm new to the WRWC, but I did want to disclose all of that just so that we're fully transparent. This predates my time on this board. I understand it's a year one pilot. Has the WRWC pursued these type of STEM educational outreach opportunities in the past, or is this a new initiative or priority?
Oh, yeah.
There's not two seats up here today.
I know, I was thinking we need two chairs.
Maybe we can hold
I
it
know,
over.
maybe there's a chair right there.
Commissioner Garcia, the great question, and I don't know if I've only been in this position for a year and a half, and going through the history, I didn't see any previous STEM education funding support. This is the first initiative in my tenure as program manager.
Well, in that light, I would like to say thank you. That's a very powerful way to provide outreach, especially for our students of color who often do not have access to these resources.
Okay. Other comments from the board?
I can just answer that. The answer is no,
Yeah,
I know some of
yeah.
in my wisdom.
That was simple. I do have a couple comments and a couple questions. A question I have is how do the actual students in the schools get involved? In other words, how are they picked? Are there any criteria? Is it open to all? How do you work that?
Historically, we've sort of operated on a word of mouth. Teachers find out about us, tell their friends. We've gotten a little bit more sophisticated, and now we typically do email blasts to kind of market about our programs. Schools can come in kind of first come, first serve. That's the first layer. Depending on the program areas, we also build partnerships. So with the Family STEM Night in particular, we've built partnerships with the Family Community Partnership group at Washoe County School District. I can't remember exactly the name of the it's a department within the district. They help us identify particularly schools from low-income backgrounds, and they help support the program fees for those schools. So usually it's first come, first serve, but there's also partnerships where we're out looking for schools.
But when you say first come, first serve, is it student by student, or is it the principal has to reach out, or that's what I'm struggling with?
It's the teacher, actually. The relationship is teacher-based. Teachers are the ones that need to be invested in spending the time to plan the field trips and to do the fundraising, and so that's where the relationship is.
So you're out there as a resource to the teachers. If they have the passion to do this, then you're there to help them.
That's
Is that
exactly
the
right.
gist? And then specifically, this project specifically is about One Water Nevada. That's the way it's titled.
Yep.
How do you see that rolling out? I assume it's tying to our One Water Nevada project, which is taking reclaimed water to drinking water. So what is
Yes.
your specific program about?
Well, when we were approached about this concept, I wanted to make sure that it, that it wasn't too controversial, right? We're a nonprofit organization, we do education in the community, but this is a movement that is happening across the United States. I understand that it's going to be happening in our community soon. So we really feel like we can help be a positive messenger for something that is going to be looked at by some as a controversial subject. And so how we picture rolling this out is infusing it in a STEM night program that has a lot of STEM subjects happening, many of them which are watershed related. And a couple of those stations will talk specifically about the One Water program and what that means. And so it won't be the whole program, but it'll be a part of a program that's going out to the community.
Okay, so so it's really about like the hydrologic cycle? In other words, the water is continuously used through the system? Is that the idea?
Yes. So there will be sort of a, something science, science background of the subject, but also the messaging of, this is happening in other communities. This actually is going to be a positive for water conservation. So, there's stewardship messaging along with scientific background.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Well, I think in particular, many of us would like to come even on that program, to see this specific program in action.
Yeah.
So any further comments? Yes, Mr.
Question.
Okay.
If we know a teacher or someone interested, do we send them, is there like a sign up on your website or?
Yes, please send teachers our way. The One Water education program, that's not going to be ready to pilot until probably late fall. So don't promise that yet. But if you want to say, hey, I heard about this cool program, yeah, please send them our way.
Cool.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, cool. Anyone else? Comments? All right, well, kudos to you. Thank you, Kim, for bringing this to us. Sounds like there's a huge amount of support, so I'm looking for a motion to award these funds.
So move.
And a second?
Second.
All right, so we've got a motion from Ms. Garcia, a second from Mr. Abbott. Any further conversation or discussion? All right, hearing none, excuse me. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, motion passes unanimously. Expecting big things out of you.
Thank you. Yeah.
Maybe bring us an end-of-the-year report on how many students participated. Something like that, a feedback at the end would be really good.
Yes, and after the discussion today, we'll make sure that we get some invites to some of the STEM nights that are happening and pass that along to the board.
Yeah, that would be excellent. We're going to close out item 7 and move on to 8, which is a, excuse me, presentation by Mr. Folletta on what has happened during the legislature.
Thank you, Chair, members of the board. I'll be brief as we discuss some of these matters during the legislative session itself. As you know, the regular legislative session is now closed. Subsequently, there were 2 special sessions. Those have also been resolved at this point. During the course of the session, this body, with the assistance of the legislative subcommittee and staff, monitored a number of pieces of legislation. When the legislature closed, we were looking at 37 pieces. We had supported one measure specifically, AB 261. That was unanimously passed on both sides. There were a number of other bills we were watching, but none of them implicated the WRWC explicitly. I would say in general, as most sessions go, there obviously was a lot of discussion about water. As I talked about before, it focused really, or probably what's exemplary or illustrative of how the discussions went was that on the one hand, we had a lot of discussions about conservation. Those focused mainly around AB 220, which was a Southern Nevada Water Authority bill about the municipal septic system and how to get people on septic onto the municipal sewer system, That ultimately transitioned to a voluntary program. The concerns raised there was about the fact that really there was a push to mandate people to get off of septic and onto the sewer system. I think ultimately that was kind of a pragmatic decision on the bill sponsor's part and SNWA's part that reflects the fact that this was going to be a long commitment anyways. It was going to take decades to get people on, so it sounds like they were just going to start with the people who are willing to go and then move on from that discussion onto a more potentially aggressive policy later. And then there was a lot of discussion about conjunctive management. That was driven by a bill called AB 387, same bill sponsor actually. And that bill ultimately died. It was pushed to some degree by the state engineer's office. There were concerns raised by a number of parties along the way, people with water rights, mainly about the impact of how this new framework for doing conjunctive management would impact people with groundwater rights in basins where there are also major surface water systems, including the Truckee Meadows. Again, although it died, I think ultimately that discussion will probably come back again as it's necessary to resolve some issues in other basins throughout the state. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions you might have about the report.
One quick question for me. You said AB 261. Well, let me just say this. It did seem, since I was chair of one of the committees for legislative, which was over on Tumwa, it seemed like this was a pretty big year for water, but I don't think a lot of things passed, was how I kind of, what's your take?
That's probably right. That's
A
probably
lot
right.
of discussion, a lot of concern, changing climatic conditions, concerns about Colorado River, Lake Mead, et cetera, conservation, conjunctive use, sewage, all of the issues were touched, it seems like. But I didn't think that much passed. So you mentioned AB 261, but what was that one?
261 was about the state economic development plans and local economic development plans, and a requirement that they consider and articulate methods that both state and local governments could use to promote water conservation as it relates to economic development.
Well, what I got out of it was, it seemed like what they wanted to do was encourage lower water using businesses to come and get developed here versus high water user. You know, if you have a choice, go with the low water user. That's how I took it away, but I don't know that there were any teeth there whatsoever.
Correct. Yeah, there weren't really any teeth, but I would say it was a kind of roundabout way of doing what you're suggesting. Is
Yeah.
at least the economic development agencies have to consider water conservation as it relates to their plans, which obviously are about economic growth, and so it would make sense that it would work. with
Okay.
those.
Let me ask any board, yes, Mr. Dare?
Yeah, so are there any phantom ghost bills hanging out that we, this next 2 years, need to be paying attention to? And you don't have to answer fully today. I mean that, I really don't need a full explanation. But my concern is, if we wait until the next legislation to be involved, that's the wrong timing. If there's something that we need to be thinking about, I'd like it, you can even bring it back another time. But it'd be nice to know that we're really focused in the next 2 years, preparing for either the good of supporting a bill or stopping something that shouldn't be.
To that, I would just say, I think AB 387 and the concepts that were discussed there, conjunctive management in basins with major surface water systems, I mean, that's, the state engineer's office clearly has concerns about how that's going to be managed. I don't think those concerns are specific to our region. They are driven by what's happening in other places, but they nonetheless would impact us here unless we were specifically carved out. And so I think that that is an issue that needs to be monitored. It's not necessarily a bad thing, what they're trying to do, but it's clearly something that people have strong opinions about, particularly groundwater rights.
I think my goal would be make sure that we strategically have our voice in it one way or another. And that would be what I'd be interested in, is where is our voice? Where are we involved in that kind of thing?
Yeah, Ms. Preckus?
Yeah, and along those lines, and maybe I missed it, there aren't any interim studies on water or anything?
I'd have to go back and check. No, I don't think there are any major interim studies on water.
Yeah. You know what would be good during the interim for this body is to understand what rulemaking is going on and what agency work is going on, that, you know, maybe keep a finer pulse on it. Because I think that this failure to thrive of legislation is going to mean that there's more work to be done by, you know, agencies or rulemaking to kind of get to a point, you know. So And I just bring that up from my own experience, because every now, you know, I've been on 11 years, every now and then I'll hear staff here, tell more, say, well, we were down in Carson for this hearing on this, and it's like, well, what was that about? You know, I'd like to know about that rather than when it shows up as AB 420 or something. So that's the illustration of that point.
Sure.
Thank you.
And although I don't, again, I'd have to check, I don't remember there being a major interim study on water being approved, but there will be you know, interim natural resource committee hearings and things like that, so we can monitor that. And then the state engineer's office is always working on something.
Yeah, I think, personally, I think that's a really good point that Ms. Breckus makes, because especially if AB 387 was strongly supported by the state engineer's office, then they're going to be looking for a way. I mean, having worked at the state myself way back, conjunctive use was a big issue even in the 90s. Here we are, fast forward, decades later, it's still a big issue. And the longer we put off addressing it for the whole state, the worse condition we're going to be in. So I have to believe state engineer is going to be working on that one in particular. So any other comments or thoughts from the board? No, all right, well, great job, Mr. Fletta, tracking all this stuff with Kim, and onus on you too, Kim, to help us know what the agencies are doing. You know, this is not really a one-person job to know everything happening in the whole state, so, all right. Well, with that, it says possible action, but we don't need it, it's a report. Okay, thank you for the report. We'll close out 8 and move on to 9, which is another report from Kim Rigdon, our Water Resources Program Manager.
Thank you, Madam Chair. A little bit of a short meeting, so I'm going to try to briefly give you some highlights on some of the projects and the activities that are ongoing. You've heard presentations over the last year on many of the projects, so I don't want to be redundant by giving, duplicative information. So if you want to turn your attention to attachment 9A in your board packet, there's a table in there with a list of all the current projects that are funded through the Regional Water Management Fund. And the first column is the name of the project. The second column is an overview and summary of what that project is trying to accomplish, the goals of the project, and a little bit about the scope of work. And the third column is the activities that occurred in fiscal year 23, coming to a conclusion. So I'll just touch on the One Water Nevada outreach activities. Many of you attended the facility site tours in January and February. The One Water Nevada outreach team also just completed the development of a mobile education trailer for schools. I think you saw some of the images of that when Mark Milan with Data Instincts came and presented last time. That's completed and has been delivered, and they'll be using that for some of the education outreach events as well.
Before you go on, let me ask although I don't see our clerk, there she is. Since we don't have a presentation here, is it possible just to put I don't know if there are any people online. Okay. Well, anyway, if you can just put this document up online, that would be good. All right, keep going.
All right. And it came up in the last board meeting, but we're looking at now that as soon as July 1st hits, scheduling more site visits and expanding the invite to more of the staff that are involved.
Yeah.
So we'll keep you apprised on when those site visits are and where we're going to be visiting and see who we need to prioritize as far as inviting on those trips. So on page 3, the first row is the UNR Enhanced Source Control Phase 2 effort. And so Enhanced Source Control is essentially looking at the existing pretreatment programs at the water reclamation facilities. And as we go to expanding our reuse capabilities and advanced water treatment, we need to start looking at the additional contaminants that will be regulated under those conditions, those permit conditions, and also up-and-coming contaminants of emerging concern. And so what this program does is it's creating a sampling effort and monitoring effort for the Reno Stead Water Reclamation Facility, the Truckee Meadows Water Reclamation Facility, and the South Truckee Meadows Water Reclamation Facility to take a look at what's in the wastewater. Will it impact the current treatment systems or be our ability to meet those permit regulatory requirements? And what do we need to continue monitoring into the future? And so they've developed a plan for the Reno Stead Water Reclamation Facility. They currently have a draft completed for the Truckee Meadows Water Reclamation Facility, and then they'll move on to South Truckee Meadows, but they're making progress on that, good progress. We also, on page 3, second row, just to highlight, this is something that we don't always talk about. We're hoping to get a presentation from the City of Reno Stormwater Committee staff to give an update on, we fund the MS4 permit program, stormwater management program. And we've been doing that since 2008, and it basically supports implementation of the stormwater management program. And so I just wanted to mention that we'll get somebody, a staffer, to come over and give us a presentation on those activities, hopefully in August or September. We're looking at the availability for that, so you can get an update on that. That's what I was going to highlight for the projects. I know we're limited on time. I just want to really quickly just give you some staff updates on some other projects that we're working on. So staff is currently working with the City of Reno, Washoe County, and Tumwa to host a series of Northern Nevada Water Planning Commission open house style workshops to work with the community members up there in North Valleys and give them more information on all the water projects that are going on up there. Not just, we don't want to just jump in and give them the recycled water, updates. We want to let them know that the agencies are doing all these other projects and good work up there. And the first workshop is tomorrow night from 6 to 8 at the North Valleys Community Center. And it'll be, again, one of, we're thinking 5 or 6 continual workshops to interact with the residents up there in the North Valleys. One last thing real quick, I know we're running out of time.
You're okay.
I was invited to participate on a stakeholder advisory committee for the update to the 1999 state water plan. And they've had 2 meetings to date. These have been primarily organizing the stakeholder advisory group, getting the right people at the table, and starting to look at the goals of the update of the plan. So I don't have a lot of information on how this is going to look. I do know that it looks like the primary goal in updating the plan is to inventory the state water resources, try to incorporate some climate change impacts to their calculations for what available resources we have, and update the sections of the plan that are related to that. They did mention that they would be looking at updating many of the 1960s reconnaissance reports that are done that determine the perennial yield of each of the hydrographic basins in the state. So we'll be keeping a close eye on that. We have made numerous comments that we would like the update process to include close coordination with the local water planning oversight agencies, especially when it comes to any policies or recommendations that might come from that effort. So I'll continually update the board on that.
All right.
As it moves forward.
Well, a few comments before you go. One, this last thing you were talking about, so we're almost to 25 years since the water plan was updated. And I led that effort the last round, and it had been 25 years since the very first one was done, when I was doing it. And so I'm a little stunned. One thing I think you should get to the group is that it would be good to update it on a more regular basis, like every 5 years, much like we do at Tumwa and Western Regional Water Commission. Every 5 years, we have a major update. So I think that'd be great. How big is the group? I mean, is it 15 people, 10 that you're part of?
Probably, it looks like about 20 members.
20, okay. And then I just want to compliment you on be part of that group. I think it's really important. I did then, and I do now, to tie the local water planning agencies into the state planning effort. In other words, it should almost be a bottom-up effort where the data and issues that we're dealing with get folded into the state writ large. So the other thing I wanted to mention is I had seen on Facebook your Northern Nevada Water Planning Commission, and I put on my calendar, when I went to look on our website to see the more details, I couldn't find it on our website. Like, I went on Northern Nevada Water Planning Commission, maybe that was my error. It should have been under Western Regional, but I just wanted to, it's not easy to find. So maybe it could be in a banner or something. I think these are amazing workshops that the commission is doing, and I was so pleased to see it. Only thing I was disappointed in is it was hard to find info, except I had to go searching on Facebook again. I did find it. So anyway, I think I've sent information about it to people that I think would be interested who did not know about it. So it may not be out there as much as you would hope.
Back to the committee.
See, and there was one other thing. No, that's it. And any board comments on, yes?
On the workshops, are you working with Washoe County to do some outreach as well?
Yes,
Okay.
Director Smith is involved. He's on our planning committee.
Right, but I also haven't seen Washoe County push it out.
It came out pretty quick, I have to
Okay.
admit. It came out in the last week. We were trying to get it jump-started, initiated, and we weren't quite sure what the venue was going to look like. We had to nail down a venue, and so I think the communications team had just gotten it out last week. So it hasn't been out for very long. It's going to be, we're going to hopefully have more advance notice.
Well, for example, there's some specific Facebook groups for North Valleys. That it would be really good to put it on those Facebook groups, because that's where a lot of the residents get water information from, frankly.
Yeah, and the cabs, up there, they're all really involved.
So even today, if you could do that later today, I think it would
I'll
be
get
good.
a hold of Director Magoon over there. I think she's spearheading that, and she has the communications team at the city of Reno, and I think they did
No,
a
no, no.
mass
So
email-
Trina is head of the utilities, but we have a whole separate comms group
Okay,
at Reno, but an account, same for the county.
okay.
Okay? We can help you after this meeting.
Yeah, let
Great.
me know.
Okay. Any other comments? Yes.
Just
Jen?
quickly, I know we're after our Tumwa time, I thought. I thought there was a scope of work going on studying Long Valley that we had going on.
The Long Valley Creek.
Yes.
Where they were evaluating
Yes.
potentially using that as a discharge. I spoke with Director Smith, and he said that Washoe County wants to take on that individually, and that it no longer needed to be.
It's not coming here through this body, because we did, I thought, vote.
I think we voted on it at Tumwa, because I remember I voted no at Reno and yes at Tumwa. And
Yeah, and also, the Cold Springs study, I think there was a feasibility study that showed up that, there's some limitations to recharge there, which was basically the basis for the city of Reno's approval for the Stonegate development. And I haven't heard boo on that result from Reno, from, here, where I thought we were also paid for that scope of work
For the rapid infiltration basin analysis.
for
of
the
this.
Cold Springs plant.
We haven't received a scope of work for the Cold Springs regional water balance. I'm trying to
Okay.
better understand which piece we're talking about, because there's the closed basin analysis, water balance analysis.
Okay.
That hasn't started, but I think Director Smith has been working on a rapid infiltration basin analysis for the Cold Springs Water Reclamation Facility out there, and that analysis was completed. There's a final report on that.
Yeah, I think I read that, and, I'm sure he is, and maybe it's just a jurisdiction to jurisdiction issue, because Reno, is reliant upon that plant for that approval, but I thought came through here for some money earmarked to study it, and if there are some that haven't started, because I didn't see anything on your sheet there, I would like to have discussion, an understanding of the status of those, and maybe even open discussion on whether or not we want to claw back that money, if it's, the scope has changed or things are moving forward by other parties.
Sure, and we can talk about that. It was prioritized by the Northern Nevada Water Planning Commission. I think they're looking forward to getting the Cold Springs water balance analysis completed. We just need to get the scope of work. I've been working with Director Smith, and he kind of told me spring. We're going a little bit past that, but I'll work with him on a schedule for that, and I can bring that scope of work to the Northern Nevada Water Planning Commission.
Okay.
Okay, that'd be great.
So I'll coordinate with you all.
Any other comments on this item? All right, good work. I know it's a lot of work. Thank you, Kim. I know you've got your hands in a lot of pies here because it's all things water. So thank you. I'm going to close this item out and move on to item 10, which is direction to staff on future agenda items and dates for future meetings. So I do have some things. I don't see anyone jumping up. PFAS has been in the news, and I do think this board could be a good way to get information about PFAS out to the community at large. So they're going to be having a conversation in North Valleys. We have a conversation at Tumwa, but it's about Tumwa wells. I would like to potentially ultimately see a region-wide testing program that isn't just the wells and isn't just in North Valleys. So I'd love to discuss what that might look like. But to start, I think we all would like to get some education about PFAS. And this seems like a good environment to do it. We're a broad group. Water quality is an important issue. It's a cutting-edge issue for our community. You mentioned field trips. So just keep us apprised, and I wanted to ask the board if there's any others that they want to be specifically. We've done, visited 5 places in California, I want to say. There may be other states that have something to share with us. And then lastly, you mentioned stormwater, and I was going to as well. I think it's really important to get that presentation on the MS4 and start getting our heads around what stormwater looks like region-wide. Sparks has taken a lead, in my opinion, in getting a stormwater district out there, essentially a fee, trying to deal with their issue. Reno, we've been struggling with it all year. County hasn't addressed it. I think this is a good place to kind of bring it all together. And so I would really like to start getting some more presentations on that. With that said, I'm sure other board members might have some ideas for our upcoming agendas. Anything? Nothing? Okay, well, there's some ideas. Yes, Mr. Dare?
I do think it's a good idea. I'm gonna agree that we have a conversation about PFAS, but part of it is it's complicated and it's growing, and it's a conversation that doesn't have an end right now. And I only say that, it doesn't mean we're not in it. So I do agree, but I think an education of actually what we do know and that we can continue to have our voice in that would be a very wise move.
I think it would be great.
So I'll agree
Yeah.
that that's
Okay.
be a direction how we do it.
And then as far as meetings, because that's part of this too, we have on our calendars a July 19th meeting, and I'm assuming you're not planning a meeting for
We
July
don't have any
19th.
priorities or milestones to meet, so I
Okay.
was hoping that we could resume in
Good.
August, pending having items to discuss in the
And
August
that would
meeting.
be August 16th?
That would be August 16th, yes.
Okay, so everyone get that on your calendars and make those changes? Okay, anything more on the calendaring? Or I did ask you, I think, to get it out on our agenda, so delete the July one off our calendar, so we're not getting confused. Yeah, okay,
Yep, we'll delete that, and then I just, in your board packet, put the schedule of milestones for the board so that you have an idea of what we,
the big
outlook-
picture
the big
items for
picture
each
outlook.
meeting. Yeah, okay.
Okay.
Good. Okay, well, I'm going to close out this item and move on to our final public comment. 3 minutes per speaker. Any final public comment? No cards. Anyone on Zoom? Anyone on Zoom? No. Okay. All right. Any commission comments on anything in general? Okay. All right. Any final staff comments for us? Okay, well, with that, I will declare us adjourned.
And tell them what we're gonna go.